Hi, I'm Angie Kellen, and this is Shot Talk with Aki Fujimura. Aki is the CEO of D2S, and D2S is the managing company sponsor of the eBeam initiative. Hello, Aki.
Hi, Angie.
Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
It's always great to catch up with you, and especially since you had such a very busy September.
Yeah.
You had given an invited talk at the Bacchus event in Monterey. The eBeam initiative had a record turnout for your Bacchus event as well, your reception. And also, I know that you had hosted a dinner for the initiative's design team advisors. So let's start off by getting your perspective on the key takeaways at the Bacchus event this year.
Yeah, Bacchus was a great conference again this year. I think 10 nanometer was the key theme for me, and as the industry is getting closer and closer to realizing 10 nanometer, you can see the level of activity and level of kind of decision making that's happening in the industry as a whole. And one absolute critical thing for D2S it was that complex mask shape is going to be required at 10 nanometers. Several speakers in different venues talked about how complex masks are absolutely required for 10 nanometer, whether it's for pixelated masks or IoT or SMO, it's going to be happening. Also, a key trend was multi-beam. Multi-beam's been being discussed. IMS had been doing a very good job progressively improving on their results on every conference, and this was no exception. I think there's a lot of anticipation for what they're going to be able to show in 2015. Also, at Thursday panel session, which is always exciting at Bacchus, New Flare speaker talked about their eBeam 9500 machine, as far as I know, for the first time publicly. And this is an improvement on their 9000 machine, which is currently out there. And the 9500, they said, was going to have increased current density and thermal correction. So that was interesting to see. Yeah, in general, 10 nanometer is around the corner, no question. But there was also discussion about 7 nanometer, and specifically there was a lot of discussion about needing to have 7 nanometer be on EUV because the other alternatives are very expensive and time consuming. But I think the way I saw it, there was a half of the people saying, we got to make it happen, and if we commit to it, we can, and half the people saying, I don't know if it's enough time to really make it high volume production yet. So we'll see what happens, but it's definitely a very, very exciting time right now.
Well, let's talk about your invited presentation at Bacchus. Can you tell us what the main message was?
Yeah, I talked about the need for simulation-based mask data preparation. The world in mask data preparation is shifting from rule-based processing to simulation-based processing. And this need is happening because of the shape that you need to print on the mask and the size shrinking. So it's independent of a mask writing. Whether you're writing with VSB or you're writing with multi-beam, this is going to be required. And I would argue that particularly if you're writing with multi-beam, because of the amount of flexibility that you have in constant write time that you have with the multi-beam machine, simulation-based processing becomes even more important. So why simulation-based processing is required is because of the context-dependent nature of mask shapes, the actual mask shapes compared to the Jerome mask shapes at 50 nanometer size or below. At 50 nanometer and above, you have changes going on, but they're not so context-dependent. They're a little bit, but they're not so much that you have to get away from the rule-based processing. At 50 nanometer or below, you have so much context dependence that is, it's not the shape itself that you have to look at the shape itself in addition to the context, all of the shapes around you, you have to look at in order to know what that is going to turn out to be on the mask. And that context dependence is what gives rise to the need to simulation-based processing. So Johan Choi of D2S did a great job of a very, very extensive simulation study to show that 50 nanometer is the tipping point.
Well, let's go back to a little bit to the dinner you hosted for your initiative advisors. What's their perspective on Moore's Law?
Yeah, well, Moore's Law is definitely, Moore's Law and all this stuff is happening in my lifetime. It's so exciting to be living now, right? But yeah, Moore's Law with respect to performance per watt, it's still happening and it's fine, right? Moore's Law with respect to density of design, how many transistors you can fit in a unit of area, that is not scaling so well anymore. And that was a part of the discussion that we had. And it's definitely an issue that is, that is going to be the case eventually, but we would like to keep it going as much as possible. And one of the ways in which shrinking of the design rules, which is what this is all about, shrinking of the design rules, how that can happen is by doing simulation-based processing again. The simulation-based processing would have to happen for wafer, for the design side, and on the mask, but I think it needs to happen first on the mask side. So I'm looking forward to contributing at least a little bit to the extension of Moore's Law in terms of shrinking design rules and thereby improving the amount of transistor density per unit area.
Well, shifting gears just a little bit, one of the main contributions of the eBeam initiative is the annual member survey, which I know was reviewed at the reception at Bacchus. In fact, this video journal edition has a video of you and the panel and a couple other luminaries kind of discussing their comments on the survey results. What's your perspective, or what is the most important survey result from your perspective?
Yeah, I think all of the survey questions are very interesting and answers were very good. But in terms of surprises, for me, dose modulation question, the answer came back saying 100% of the people who talked about it said that we're going to have more than 2 levels of dose of modulation. Some people said more than 1,025, right, even. So today, majority of the masks are processed with only 1 level of dose modulation. So, going from that to 100% of the people, I thought it would be a high number, but I didn't think it was going to be 100%. So that was surprising. Complex mask shapes question, I thought that was also good. People are indicating that they're expecting more and more complex mask shapes. Yeah, please look at the video because I think that the results are very illuminating.
Well, one last question to wrap up, Aki. As a provider of GPGPU accelerated simulation, what's going to be new for GPGPU, say that twice, in 2015?
Yeah, so I think more adoption, increased adoption. I think everybody knows that D2S is fully committed to the GPU platform. D2S in some ways is all about GPU accelerated simulation. But the nuclear person at eBeam Initiative Bacchus event talked about how they have been using GPUs too, but in single digits of numbers of GPUs. And in the future machine, they expect to have double digits or maybe even triple digits, he said. And so that it's exciting to see the adoption of this technology over time. I think simulation-based processing is best done with the GPGPU platform. So I think this is a natural transition. So I would predict that more and more people are going to be talking about that.
Well, Aki, you make this technology exciting for the rest of us too, and your passion is very catchy. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you joining me.
Yeah, thank you, Angie.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of Shot Talk, and we hope to see you next time.